I don't think so.
Thank
I
you.
was waiting to start until she started.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. First of all, thank you for such a nice introduction, and thank you for having me on. I am excited to be able to share some practical information with you. Give me a second to go ahead and share my screen, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Let's see. Give me one sec here. Okay, can you all see both me and my slides? This is my goal. Let's see if I can accomplish my goal.
Yes, we can.
Amazing. See, we're already having a successful presentation. So what we're going to talk about tonight is 5 simple steps to stop your child's aggression and lift your parenting confidence. In full transparency, we're going to go deeper into the first 2, but I will share all of them with you. I also want to say, you might have noticed from my bio that I'm very boy focused. I don't want you to get scared and run off if you've got girls or non-binary kids. Everything that I'm going to share is relevant to every child. And if I slip up and say boy, it's because that's the population that I'm working with all the time. So you'll have to forgive me if that slips out, but this is for all of you. So you are all welcome here and everything here is relevant. So to start out, I'm going to be flipping through sort of a bunch of slides that you don't need to be paying a ton of attention to. In other words, just listen to me. While we're doing that, I would love for you all to just each type in the chat how you're feeling right now. Okay, just be honest. I can take it, whatever it is that you're feeling. I want you to go ahead and just share that right now. And I'm going to go ahead and start. So the first thing that I want to say is that I know most of you have kids who have gone back to school right now, and there's a very, very clear correlation in my practice and with the parents that I work with between back to school and really chaotic, challenging behavior at home. Sometimes it's at school also, but lots at home. And so I want to just say that out loud because this can be a really hard time of year for everybody. And I want you to know that you're not alone. All right, here's my bunch of slides. You ready for this? You're in the right place if I've got a lot of reasons to make you feel like you're in the right place. Okay, you're riding an emotional roller coaster with your kids hitting, tantruming, grabbing, cursing, spitting, or flat out defiance. You don't have to raise your hand if you feel any of these things, but you can just sort of take a sigh of relief like, okay, my kid is not the only one who calls me a whatever. Okay, you're afraid you've done something wrong, that your child is acting out so often. You're tiptoeing around your child because you're afraid of their explosions. Other family relationships are tense because of that child's struggles, maybe with your, between siblings or between a partner if you've got one. You're in the right place if you know that your child needs help, but they're actually pushing you away and pushing everyone away. Very common. You love that kid, but you don't really like them right now. Also totally normal. We have all been in that place of like, I really don't like this kid. Normal. Okay, you're in the right place if you're angry at your child, you're critical of them much of the time, but you would like that to change. If your child's friendships are suffering because of that kid's behavior, because of your own child's behavior, in other words, you're in the right place if you thought that parenting was going to be super fun, but it's very not fun right now. If your child's been labeled a bad kid, this happens a lot at preschool or at school. You're sad and desperate to stop yelling yourself, to stop threatening, but you just don't know how to get yourself in what I call good enough parenting shape to be able to do that. You've tried a bunch of things, right? Timeouts, oops, that's supposed to say star charts, not start charts. Logical consequences, talking with them ad nauseum, but the aggression still continues. You're worried about them and you're really desperate to find something that works. You yell, you threaten, you bribe, you punish, you might even spank, and you feel horrible about it. And you want to find a way to stop your child's aggression peacefully. You've spent a ton of money on experts and nothing's gotten better. Okay, so let me take a moment before I go into the next, and I just want to see how everybody's feeling in here. Frustrated, thank you for being honest. Hopeful, curious, excited to learn some strategies which can help at home. Anxious, stressed and sad and a little hopeless, excited to learn, tired, exhausted, frustrated, and hoping to learn something to help tonight, I'm always in fight or flight. Okay, so I hope that just saying all of those things out loud that I just said will help your nervous system relax a little bit. It's important to know that we're in this together. We're not supposed to be able to figure this out on our own. We need one another to be able to sort of calm our nervous systems enough to be able to get in a place where we can help our kids. So it really doesn't matter if this is your sort of first go at addressing this, or if you have tried every single thing that you could possibly think of. And it doesn't matter if you are somebody who's been, really calm. I've got parents who come and they're not yelling and they're super calm, but maybe they don't know how to set limits at all. Things are hard, or maybe you're one of those parents who's more harsh. It doesn't matter which one you are. Like, these things will help you. I'm going to give you information that's going to help, and we're going for peace, right? That's what we're going for here. Let's bring some peace into our homes. I'm going to be honest with you up front. I have no magic pill. If I had a magic pill, I would be a gazillionaire, and I probably wouldn't be giving this talk right now, even though it's very important to me and close to my heart. I don't have a magic pill, but if you stick to this practice, you will absolutely see transformation. Okay, so hang out. I've got a bunch of things to share with you. And here is, whoops, my slides won't turn. Here's what you're going to learn. I'm basically going to give you a simple 5-step process that I've come up with to help your child's behaviors without you having to yell or punish or come down harshly. It is a practice. And we're also going to look at 3 things that you've got to understand in order to stop your kids' aggression. Why did every time somebody comes in, I can't then change my slides. I don't know why it does that. It's very weird. Okay. Anyway, a very quick bit about me. I really don't want to spend that much time on me, but you heard my mission at the beginning, so I'm not going to talk about that again. I also can't change my slide. I am a parent coach. I founded a company, or I don't know what a company, I guess, I don't know, business, I don't know what it is, called Parenting Boys Peacefully. I am an author. I'm actually working on a children's book right now that I'm really excited about. So wish me luck and hope that the editors say that they want it, because I really want that to come out. And I do a lot of speaking like this. Oh, and most important, you should know that I have 3 kids. I'm a parent, and my boys are now 16, 18, and 21. And I'm very excited because my 2 oldest ones have been traveling for the last 2 months, and they just met at the airport in Rome and are coming home, and they're going to be here Thursday morning. And I'm very excited to see them for like 3 days until each of them leave to their respective colleges. So that's who I am. And I got into this work because one of those said children was a big challenge for me, his teachers, his coaches, his siblings, his father, everybody. And I needed to find a way to get us through. And I wasn't willing to listen to people tell me that something was terribly wrong with him, because I just didn't believe it. That's how I got here. Oh, I guess that's what this is. That's them when they were very little. They are all now, my little one is not quite 6 feet. The other ones are over 6 feet. That's a very old picture, but it's so cute. Okay, myths about aggression. Your child is making a choice. This is a myth. Okay, the way that society interacts with kids who are struggling is with the presumption that they are making a choice to behave this way, and that if we just gave them the right information, they would make a different choice. That, in fact, is not what's going on. We know now. There's tons of brain science out right now. Shout out to Mona Delahook, who maybe many of you have heard has had a brain aneurysm. She is an amazing parent educator and a huge advocate for kids like ours. She wrote this book called Brain Body Parenting. Shout out. If you haven't read this book, highly recommend it. Oops. There went my bookmark. Anyway, she goes into the brain science of how we know this, but just know that your child is not making a choice. They don't want to hurt. They don't want to make your life miserable. Oops. Another myth is that a child who acts aggressively is a bad child. One of the keys to you being able, I might be getting ahead of myself, but that's okay. One of the keys to you're being able to help your child through these hard behaviors is to get really clear that there are sort of 2 parts of that child. I like to think of it this way, like have the sweet child under here, and then I have sort of these nasty behaviors glommed on top. And what's really going to make a difference is if you, instead of focusing on these behaviors, like I need to get these behaviors to stop, which we do, I'm not saying we don't, but like instead of focusing there, if we focus on the sweet child underneath, can you guys see me okay? Okay. And focus on connecting deeply and letting that child know, you are loved, you are safe, we're going to get through this. You will see these behaviors start to fall away. So your child is not bad, even in the moments when they are acting in ways that we might label bad. You get the difference? Okay, cool. The other myth is that aggression is something too serious for you to tackle as a parent. I've been doing this work for 20 years, and I want to say loud and clear for all of you to hear that you are actually the perfect person to help your child. There is nobody on this planet better suited to help your child than you. There is nobody who loves your child more, nobody who knows the ins and outs of what makes that child tick, nobody who cares as much as you do. And to be honest, nobody wants the job. Nobody else is going to do it. So fortunately, you're well suited to it. Another myth is that if you don't, I think I said something about 3 myths or something. I don't know. I think my numbers are all off, but whatever. Hopefully this information is relevant regardless of my lack of math skills. So another myth is that if you don't punish your child, that they're not going to understand that they're doing something wrong. And this is just not the case. Okay, when we punish our child, this is really generally a form of isolation, whether it's physical isolation or an emotional isolation. And that's exactly the opposite of what their brain needs in order to sense safety, in order for them to be able to behave differently. So punishing them, whether it's, through shaming or yelling or isolating in whatever way, is going to actually do the opposite of what you're hoping for. And I touched on this earlier, that there's this myth that if you talk with them, that they're going to understand and they're going to stop. But we talked earlier for a moment about the fact that it's not a choice that they're making. It's really not I won't do this or I won't stop doing this. It's really a can't. And that's an important adjustment in mindset that we need to take, because that brings us out of victim mode and into the place of, okay, if this is the best this child can do in this moment, and this best is not cutting it, I need, me, adult with fully developed brain, I need to figure out what to do instead, what to do differently here, how to set things up differently. Okay, so the truth is, maybe I've already talked about this, so let's see. Truth is, there's my he, I told you. Your child is always doing the best that they can, always. And sometimes that best is really crappy. I'm going to be honest. That's true for us too, by the way. Okay, they're always doing the best they can. Your kid is always doing the best that they can. You got to remember that even in those hard moments, and that separating the behaviors from that sweet child underneath is an image that really helps parents to remember that. That child is not a sum of their nasty behaviors. That child is good and sweet and curious and loving and kind and all the things. It's just that part of them is hidden right now. They're always doing the best that they can. Another thing that you got to know is that almost always an aggressive child is a scared child. If you take one thing away, take this, please. An aggressive child is a scared child. We need to understand this, because it helps us access our empathy. Otherwise, we go to that, like, how dare you, that blamey, that you're making my life miserable place. If we can think of that child as a scared child, we can access our own empathy. Like, if you see a child on the schoolyard who's, I don't know, fell off the monkey bars or something, and you can see them scared, you're going to go up and you want to help them, right? That is the energy that we need to bring to a child who is struggling with aggression. All right. I already talked about this. You have the power to help your child through this tough time. In fact, you are the best person to do it. I firmly believe it. I've seen it over and over again. So I really believe that. And you can do it without the punishing, without the lecturing, yada, yada. Okay, so what's the 5-step process? This is what it looks like. I use this constantly. I really should say practice, not process. It is a practice. And here's how it goes. The first step is you got to set yourself up for success. And we talk about that first. Then you got to infuse connection. I'm talking about the connection between you and your sweet child. Then you got to play Sherlock Holmes, be a detective. We'll talk about what that means in brief, and we'll talk briefly about setting loving limits and playing wildly. Setting limits is key, probably the weakest link in many families. Most parents who come to me have no clue how to set limits lovingly. We know how to either set limits harshly, or we have no idea how to set limits and we just don't do it. Limits are important. So let's dive in. Okay, so the first is set yourself up for success. First of all, are there any questions up until now? Are we good? Just, it's always weird talking to screens of people, but just give me a, are you with me still? Are
I
you
do
awake?
not see any. I do not see any questions.
Okay, cool. So the first step is to set yourself up for success. And, you know, a lot of us feel like or I don't know if we feel like, but we tend to put ourselves in this martyr position where we do everything for our child and we forget about ourselves. And that is not sustainable. It doesn't work. We have to really put ourselves first. That is, doing that is putting the best interest of everybody, is in the best interest of everybody. Okay. So we're going to do some breakout rooms. So I hope you're awake. If don't freak out. I'm not going to make you do anything horrible, right? This is what you're going to do in the breakout room. So it's just going to be short. How many are we in here? Let's see. How many people are in here?
21.
21. Oh, do I have to go out of here? Here, let's see. Rachel, are you able to break people into breakout rooms for me?
I'll check.
Okay, because if you can, we're 21. Because we could do like groups of 4-ish, just automatic groups of 4-ish and leave me out. That'd be amazing. Or you can put me in. Well, no, leave me out in case people have questions.
It looks like I can't. I think if anything, Andrea might be able to.
She doesn't know. Okay, I can do it. I just have to go out and then come back in to my full screen thing. So just give me a second. I think I can do this like this. Give me 1 second. So what I want you to do, shoot, does it let me? Why doesn't it let me if I share? So you can see my screen again? You see my screen again?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so we're now not going to do breakout rooms. So probably we're going to skip this, but I'll tell you what would have happened if we did it. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to have you break into groups. I wanted to share what your family looks like, you know, who you are, what your family looks like, a parenting win, and also if you had taken a different career path, what would it have been? So let me just tell you a little bit about the why I wanted you to do that so you understand. The parenting win is because we tend to focus, especially, you know, you saw how everybody's feeling. We tend to focus on the negative, and really there's always a positive. There's always some sort of a win, and it's good to give our brain a break and just share. The question 3, if you'd taken a different career path, what would it have been, tends to get our minds off our woes, but it also tends to bring laughter, right? Because I don't know, like, let's just, how about putting in the chat, like, I'm just curious, like, if you were gonna do it all again, what would you do? What would you be? What would you do? I think I kind of sometimes think I would have been like a spy or something. Okay, or maybe a surgeon. Okay, a literary translator, an actress, a dancer, a baker, interior designer, some sort of set designer. So many creatives, chef, everyone's so creative. Chef, equestrian, I love this. Okay, anyway, it's fun. It's fun, and it gets us, it brings us closer. It like, you know, I don't know who Teresa is, but if I have a relationship with Teresa, and I don't know what Teresa really does right now, but Teresa wanted to be a chef, like, wow, that's kind of an insight into her that I did not have before. Why is this important? This is a project manager now. Okay, yeah, project manager, chef. So my idea was that you're in this group, you're pretty anonymous. I don't know if you know each other or not. I don't know anybody, but one of the hardest things about parenting, especially with kids who are struggling, is that there's a feeling of isolation, that we're the only one, that we've done something terribly wrong, that there's something terribly wrong with our child. So being able to come together and build community is part of this first step of setting yourself up for success. This work is not meant to be done alone. So the idea is that you break up into these little groups and then you come back, and instead of all these like random names on blocks, you actually know a little bit about some of these people. You've had a little chuckle together, and you have a little insight into something that probably a lot of people in their life don't even know, but they want to be chefs or set designers or anything like that. Okay. So, okay, I just said that. I must really know my stuff. Another piece of setting yourself up for success is looking inside and noticing what happens inside you when your child acts aggressively. So this is like a little bit of a more vulnerable piece, which is why I wanted to do the other one first. You don't have to share, but you want to just take a piece of paper and a pen, or if you're willing to share afterwards, you can. But I want you to just fill this out. When you blank, and I want you to think about your child who's struggling with aggression and what they do, fill in that behavior there, and then fill in the rest. I feel, that's you, and then I blank, right? So, when you hit your sister, I feel rageful, and then I yell at you, whatever it is, okay? We're looking at what happens inside you when the aggression hops up. So just take a moment. Okay, and if you're willing to type in the chat, you can. If you're willing to unmute and share, I'd rather do that if you are willing to put your hand up and unmute. When you ignore me, I feel invisible, and then I get angry. When you yell at me, I feel sad and unappreciated and disconnected, and then I pull away and shut down. Anybody else willing to share? When you hit your brother, I feel angry, and then I yell. Most of us could probably write any of these things. Okay. It is important for us to take the time to notice what happens inside us, because we can't control our kids. We can only control ourselves. Part of being able to show up differently is going to come from you being in community with other people and being able to share vulnerably, build relationships, share wins that might sound like wins to not sound like wins to other people, right? I didn't get a call home from school today. Like, that might be a huge win for you, and somebody else is just like, why are you getting calls home from school? That's not your community, right? About, in terms of parenting at the moment. Okay, when you scream, I feel stressed, and then I yell too. When you curse, I feel disrespected, and then I yell. Okay, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing. We just read out loud. It's important. You understand why it's important to share. We can't do this work alone. Another thing that's really important in terms of setting yourself up for success is to give yourself some love. One thing that I love to do when I'm just feeling kind of crappy about my own parenting is to write down what I appreciate about myself as a parent. Just like, I'll do it for a week at a time, just right before I go to bed. 3 things I appreciate about myself as a parent. Y'all, I told you I'm really practical. I really don't want to stand up here and lecture at you, because the truth of the matter is I can give you all kinds of tips and tricks and whatnot, but if you don't do anything, I can assure you nothing will change. So I'm putting these things out there because I want to shift something in you. I want you to have something that you can do to change the situation, because the change is going to come from you. It's not going to come from your child. You're the instigator of the change. When you say mean things, I get anxious and become triggered. Yeah. Okay, so give yourself some love. That's like the self-appreciations, for example. Maybe for you, it's whatever makes you feel alive. Might be connected with a friend. It might be going out in nature, getting a little exercise, sitting down with a cup of tea for 3 minutes. I don't know, something. And the other thing is to plan for change. So if you've been doing something a certain way and then you're going to change up the way you're doing it. So if you've been sort of coming down harsh, you've been yelling, you've been isolating or putting on timeouts or whatever, and you want to do something different, you have to change your environment in order to have success. So you want to do some thinking about what about that environment do you need to change? Do you need to give people information about what you're doing? Do you need to actually give people roles like, hey, I'm going to try this differently. If X happens, can you do Y? You know, I'm gonna stop yelling, but I'm just gonna move in and listen to him when he's, you know, when he's really upset. I know that screaming and that yelling, that his screaming and yelling really upsets you and triggers you. So would you feel comfortable just stepping out of the house and I'll stay and deal with it? Okay, what has to happen? None of this like hoping and wishing that things are going to be the same, because every day they have, hoping and wishing things are going to be different when every day up until now has been the same, right? Yesterday, the day before, it's been the same. Tomorrow's also going to be the same unless we do something different. So plan for the change. What has to happen? Okay, the other thing in terms of setting yourself up for success is you've got to understand those basic truths about your child. I alluded to them earlier. You know, he's doing the best that, where'd it go? Here we go. He's doing the best he can. Oh, sorry, your child's doing the best that they can always. They never want to hurt anybody ever. Your child is good. Your child is scared if they're aggressive. And you also need to understand like the power of big emotions so you can learn how to harness it for good. So you need to understand that the emotion isn't the problem. Most of the time, the emotion, like most of the time, the hard thing, the bad thing has already happened. And the emotion that's coming out from our child is actually the body's way of healing from that hurt that set in when X thing happened. So we get confused and we think, oh my God, my child's really upset. Like this is a problem. The upset itself isn't a problem. I mean, we don't want to be getting hurt, yes, but the upset and the release of the emotion actually isn't the problem. The problem already happened. It's just that the feelings, like emotional memory doesn't have a time stamp on it. So the feelings, when they're coming out, feel as intense as when the hurt happened in the first place. Does that make sense? Do you understand what I mean? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So that first step is, how am I doing on time? Okay. The first step was to set yourself up for success. You can't start something when I would say like, hey, if you want to, this is an example I use all the time, right? If you want to, you know, eat healthier or lose 10 pounds or whatever it is, and you've got a freezer stocked with Ben & Jerry's, well, good luck. Well, at least good luck for me, because I'd be like, what do I feel like tonight, right? So if I wanted to change the way that I was eating and stop my, you know, late night Ben & Jerry's binging, then I would need to give away what was in my freezer and stop buying it there. So that temptation wasn't there in the evening, right? So again, think about your environment. What do you need to do? And that first step is all about what I like to call, like I mentioned earlier, getting yourself in good enough parenting shape. And I like to say good enough parenting shape because we're never going to be perfect and we don't have to be perfect. But we do need to be in good enough parenting shape to be able to show up more often in ways that we feel good about. Because like I said, we are the one who has to take the first step. We have to make the first gesture. Your child's behaviors follow, but we're the ones who have to start. Okay, step 2. Infuse connection. So we want to switch out all types of punishment for connection. Bribing, no more. Blaming, shaming, wishing things would get better. We just talked about get rid of the star charts, all these things. Like things, let's just say this, let us simplify it. If you're doing something in your home with your child that isn't working, how about we stop and try something else? And if you don't yet know what that something else is, it's still okay to stop what's not working. I find it really interesting that so many of us, like, we would never go to work and just do the same thing over and over again that didn't work, right? We would be fired. But at home, we do it all the time. We come home and we react to the aggression the same way every day, even though we act like we're surprised, even though it happened yesterday, we shouldn't be surprised, but we act like we're surprised, and then we get triggered and we act the same way. And it's like, no one's going to fire you from this job. It's just going to be sort of this downward spiral. So you have to be the one to stop it. So this is my suggestion to you, that even if you don't know yet what to do, even though we've actually already talked about some concrete things that you can start doing, but stop what's not working. And if that feels scary, right? Like Tasha's going like, stop the timeouts, don't punish him anymore. And you're just like, well, what am I going to do? It'd be good to just stop and just notice your feelings about that, because I can assure you they're just feelings. Punishment doesn't work. I promise you, it doesn't work. If you have an older child, you already know that. If you have a younger child, those of us with older children can tell you that if we attempt to and continue over the years to try to parent through control, we lose it at some point, right? There is nothing there. I mean, my kid, 6'3", I can say like, no, you can't take the car. But if he wants to take the car, there's nothing I could do about that, right? He could tackle me, grab the keys, ignore me. Like, the only thing that I have to go on is my relationship that I have built over the years with my child. That's all I have to go on. Okay, so we need to stop trying to control our children and focus on the connection. All right, how do we do that? So there's this practice called special time, and different people have different sort of ways of doing special time, but I like ours best. And basically, it's really simple. This is how it goes. You name it, you time it, and you let your child lead. It's really just that simple. Name it, time it, let your child lead. It does not matter what you call it. You can come up with a name together. I have some dad in Ireland, he calls it Omspree, which I forget what it means, but it's like it's Irish for something related. Heart time, people call it, you can call it whatever. You don't like special time, fine. If you have an older kid, please don't call it special time. That's just lame, okay? Not gonna happen. Can hang out time or whatever, not special time. But it needs some kind of a name because it has a different tenor to it than other kinds of one-on-one time that we spend with our child. I'll just tell you a quick story that I always like to share. That one of my kids, when he was in middle school, he was having a bit of a rough time. In fact, it's interesting that he actually just texted me from his travels and asked me, did we go to a bunch of youth hostels when I was little? And I was like, yeah, actually, when you were in middle school, you're having a hard time. And I just decided once a month, you and I are going to go away for 24 hours to these youth hostels. And so we had these great times together. But one day, we went out, we stayed in this beautiful place, and we went on the ferry, and we played at the docks, and we watched the boats, and we went to a cafe, and we did all these things. And we came home, and I'm exhausted. It's dark. And he looks at me and he says, Ema, we forgot to do special time. And I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me. But he was right. We did forget to do special time. Because when we were in that cafe and dad called, I answered it. Or if I didn't feel like going to the cafe that he wanted to go to, I wanted to go to the one that I went to, that's where we went because I was bigger and I could control what happened. Or if I was ready to stop playing in the playground, then we stopped playing in the playground. And what special time does is turns on its head sort of the general reality of most of our kids' lives, which is that adults tell them what to do from the moment they wake up till the moment they go to bed, right? You got to go to school, you got to get your backpack, you got to get dressed, you got to eat this particular thing, you got to do your homework. Yeah. So, my youngest one said something very funny to me today. What was it? He said, wait, I wrote it down. I have to share it with y'all. Hang on one second. This is my spontaneity here. I wrote it down because I want to write about it. He says to me, my study habits aren't bad. They're just different from what you know. Choosing to do all my homework Sunday night works with my current workload and allows me to enjoy my whole weekend. Like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, I see things differently. Anyway, their perspective, our perspective. They are right. Special time, you got to go all in. You got to go all in. Name it, time it, let your child lead. Why the time? Because if I were to let go of that control again and say, hey, I've got 10 minutes, we can do whatever you want, and I'm letting that child lead, that child might use that time to do something that I don't like to do, maybe feels embarrassing, maybe goes against my values, like, you know, they know we don't waste food and they want to make a cake out of things that are going to get tossed because it's not edible or something like that. Can you be pleased with that child for 10 minutes? Yes, you can. If you can't, that's your work to do, right? If I can't, that's my work to do. For 10 minutes, we can let them lead. So the timer is important. Your role is to be completely just undistracted. So you can't do it if you have other kids around. You've got to get some help. You got to have somebody else in charge of all the other kids, or they have to be sound asleep. Or if you have a child who will listen to an audiobook or do something like that and not interrupt, fine. I never had children like that. I could never do special time with my boys when the other ones were around, but some families do. So you're gonna have to just see what works in your family. You got to follow their lead, even if it sounds like, oh, I don't want to do this. And your job is just to pour in your love. And this is key, because we spend, especially with our little ones who are struggling in the ways that ours are struggling, they get a lot of negative attention, right? They get a lot of like what's wrong and what they need to be doing differently and how what they're doing isn't okay. And this is a time for us to just really meet them where they are and accept them for who they are. And that's huge. That's huge. That's really, really letting them know that we see them, that we love them, that we get them, that they're so important that we're gonna put every single thing in our life on hold for them. Doesn't matter that it's just for 10 minutes. Okay, and I say 10 minutes, but you know, when you start, you can do 5 minutes, 10 minutes. When you get more practiced at it, you can do a half an hour or an hour. I wouldn't recommend more than an hour, but it is different than just regular one-on-one time that you do with your child. All right, so I was going to do a little activity with special time, but we're going to skip that too because we're short on time. But I do want to share that your child's role is really to just do whatever they want with your loving attention. And I mean whatever they want, unless it's unsafe. You might be uncomfortable. They might push the envelope a little bit. Okay, maybe you're not allowed to jump on the couch and maybe they want to jump on the couch. Can you be pleased with them for 10 minutes? Can you stop the nagging, stop the, you know, criticism, stop the anything about like any of the energy that's like, I want you to be different than you are, and just be fully accepting of how they are in the moment for that little bit of time. It makes a huge difference. In fact, parents often say to me, you know, they're sort of dragging their feet going into it, and then they come out and they go, actually, like I thought this was going to be like great for my kid, but actually it's really great for me. And it is really great for you because you tend to come out feeling more love for your child, you know, feeling more loving towards your child. It's also a window into your world, your child's world. And like, you know, I work mostly with parents of young boys, and many of these boys are not talkers. They don't want to share their feelings as much as we want them to share their feelings. And this is a time where all sorts of stuff comes out. They say things, they show us things we wouldn't necessarily stop to notice that they were interested in otherwise. Questions? Yeah. So I'm seeing that in the chat. So let's see if I get some of them. Multiple kids we talked about. Screens during special time. I'll tell you that I have shifted my belief on this. And you're going to have to just decide what makes sense for your kids. So I think, you know, of my kids, I can tell you that there are 2 who are more prone to screen addiction than the third. And that makes a difference in terms of what I would allow. If you have a child who tends towards addiction to screen, right? In other words, they have a huge fit and there's throwing remotes and all kinds of things when the screen time is over, and you know if your kid is struggling, then I don't recommend doing that. I would introduce it as an idea that this is a way for us to hang out together and get to spend time together, without screens. But other than that, you can do whatever you want. That is not a recommendation that I would have given 5-10 years ago, but I do now. If you have a kid who's just like sometimes wants to play Minecraft and sometimes wants to play basketball and sometimes wants to do something else, then I wouldn't have a problem with it. So trust your gut there. If your gut is telling you this would not be a good idea, then go with that. But what I do want to say is there's a different tenor and there's a different connection that's happening when you are in the role of giving special time while your child is playing on electronics, like say playing a video game. Because normally, at least for me, for most of us, for most of the parents that I work with, we are annoyed. We are thinking to ourselves, why is my child wasting their life doing this? Why? This is not good. Like all the things in our head. Well, that doesn't feel very good to our kid, right? We're like, how do we get them off it? We're sort of in battle all the time. But if you're in the role of special time, then you're all in. You're like, whoa, like you're really good at that. Like, what are you doing? How does this game work? You're curious. That's a whole different energy that you're bringing to it. So just think about that when you're making that decision. Yes, I love this question. What if they say that they don't want to hang out with you? This happens a lot with older kids. And I will just share a story. There's a colleague of mine who started this work with her boy when he was in middle school. He was about 13 and he was tanking. He was having a really hard time. And she started doing special time and he would just sit in his room facing the screen and she couldn't get him off the screen and he was just facing the screen. And she just decided, well, I'm going to do it anyway. So she told him what she was doing and she just said, I'll just come in and hang out here. And she'd come in and she'd say, hey, I just came in to do, I forget, it was special time or something because he was kind of older, but she might have called it something else. But, hey, I'm just to come in for 15 minutes for some special time. Can I just sit on your bed? No answer. Okay, but no, like, get out of here. Just no answer. Okay. She would sit on his bed and then the timer would go off after 15 minutes and she would say, all right, well, thanks for letting me hang out. And then she would leave with the back to her still. Yeah. This went on. I can't remember if it was a month or 2 months or 3 months, but it was a while and she would just do it regularly. And one day she got up to leave and he said, Mom, wait, I want to show you something. And then she had to like pretend not to faint, right? Because she was just like, what? Right? I can't believe this is happening. But he turned around and he wanted to show her a book. He was into models. I forget, it was boats or planes or something. And he sat down and like showed her this stuff. Okay. It took that long for his brain, for his system to really sense that this was really safe. There's really no judgment here. This person is really here accepting me exactly as I am. I feel safe enough to open up right now. So if they say they don't want to hang out with you, one thing that I like to tell parents to do is just say, well, okay, well, I've put 15 minutes aside for you and I'm just going to sit right here on the couch and set my timer. If you change your mind, I'll be right here. And you do your part. In other words, don't go scroll on your phone and don't go hang out with your other kid. Don't make dinner, check your work emails, anything like that. Sit your butt down on the couch and stare at the wall. Because after a while, that kid is probably going to come check on you. And you might have to do that a lot of times before they really trust that, yeah, you really mean it. You are really putting everything else aside for them. So how often, just really depends. I mean, obviously, the more you can do it, the better. What I say to parents is your brain wants that dopamine hit of success. So when I'm coaching parents, I say, give yourself a realistic goal for the week. Look at your week, calendar it, and set a realistic goal. If a realistic goal, yes, he'll notice that you're there. Yeah, he'll notice that you're there. You could let him know. Set yourself a realistic goal, even twice a week, so that you get that win. And if that works, great, do it again. If you feel like you can up it, great. Small chunks of time are fine. 5 minutes feels longer than you think it will when you're not multitasking. Okay, so don't be shy. Okay, I'm conscious of time and where I am. So we're gonna skip some of this. And the only thing I want to say about spending money, eating sugar, screens we talked about, money and sugar are kind of the other things. I would say, you know, you've got to just be clear with yourself about what your values are. My sort of suggestion would be that you push yourself a little bit into discomfort, right? So if you're a no sugar, to maybe see if you could do 5 minutes of that being okay, and knowing that the world won't come to an end. I mean, if there's a dietary thing or something like that, obviously, then you have to put that rule up. So I'll leave that up to you. I will tell you, I had a child who every special time for so long, he would eat his Halloween candy. He would save it in a big bag. And like every time we had special time, we would go up to his room and just like gorge on Halloween candy. And honestly, it was pretty yummy. Like we had fun, right? I'd be like, okay, what do you want to do for a special time? We've got 15 minutes. Let's go eat my Halloween candy. And I was just like, yeah, let's go eat your Halloween candy. And we'd go he'd pour it out and he'd sort it and we'd sort it and he'd tell me what to do and which ones to eat and which ones not to eat. And, you know, and then, oh, the timer would ring, we'd put it all away, right? We didn't have a bunch of sugar in the house, but that's what he wanted to do for special time. Okay. By the way, as a teen, he went off sugar for like an entire year. He's back on again, but that was crazy. Okay. So we're not going to do this because we don't have time. Those were sort of the more in-depth steps. And I'm just going to really quickly go over the last three so you get them. The third one is to play detective. And really what that means is scanning your week and getting clear on what the pattern of aggression is. Because most of us who have kids who struggle with aggression really sit often in that overwhelmed place of, oh my God, this is happening all the time. It's nonstop. And it's not. There's a pattern, I promise, or patterns. So take some time to figure out what the patterns are and also to notice where things are good, because that also will help you. Okay. The fourth step is about setting loving limits. To just really speed through this. Limits are important because, for one, they give your child an opportunity to get upset. I know that might sound funny, but really the way that your child is going to heal is through a somatic release of feelings that have been stored up inside. And oftentimes, if you have a child who's inflexible and can't, you know, take no for an answer or can't stand when things are different, they need practice. They need practice. And limits are around small things are a way to give that child an opportunity to practice being a little bit more flexible. And if you know that you don't need to fix the upset that happens as a result of a limit because you feel clear that this limit is for you, then you offer him the opportunity, or the child the opportunity, to get upset. That makes sense? Do you know what I mean? Somebody nod their head. Okay, cool. So limits is probably like the biggest thing that parents need to learn, but it's not the first thing. Okay, so we're going through real quick. And then the last is to play wildly. There's often a real lack of laughter and joy and fun in our families when we've got a kid who's struggling the way that ours are. We need to change that. Like the scale needs to shift. We've got like this sort of moany, groany, annoyed, you know, over here, or no, I guess it's over here, weighing the scale down. I don't know how it goes. I'm all confused with my scale, but you get it. We need to switch the scale so that there's more of the positive interaction and less of the other. Physical play is a great way to get laughter going. So don't be shy to do big physical play with your child, not in the heat of the aggression. I'm talking about just in general. Pillow fights, sticking them on a sheet and dragging the child around the kitchen, or if you've got hard floors or whatever, chase around the house, mattresses sliding down the stairwells, whatever. Like, I'm talking about physical roughhousing. If you are going like, oh my God, Tasha, I have no idea how to do that. That sounds terrible. There is an amazing book called The Art of Roughhousing that I would highly recommend. Check it out. You don't have to read it cover to cover. It's more like an encyclopedia of ideas. You can also answer the child's aggression with play, although I want to say that generally sort of after the train's left the station and you can see that they're in sort of a full-blown aggressive episode, play probably isn't going to be your friend at that point. But once you do step 3 and you've scanned your week and you get a sense of when the aggression tends to rear its ugly head, then you can plan play proactively. And you can also start to notice when the little changes start to happen in your child that are the precursors of the aggression, and be playful in those moments. So don't be afraid to get silly. It doesn't engender more aggression. That's the fear. Okay, so how to start? Start with that step 2, infuse connection. I'm going to give you a link. My website is parentingboyspeacefully.com/reconnect, and you'll see that you can just get it's boy focused, but it doesn't matter. It will take you sort of step by step into building a practice of special time with your child. Start with really small doses. Okay, if you don't do anything, nothing will change. So I want to leave you something really small, like go to my website, join that thing, and do 5 minutes of special time twice this week or something. I mean, like, just do something small, but just do something, or choose one thing that you're doing that's not working and just stop doing it, even if you have no idea what the heck you're going to do instead. Okay. Be sure to follow instructions, name it, time it, and let your child lead. And leave yourself an extra 10 minutes at the end of special time. I didn't talk about this, but real quick, I'll just say that oftentimes feelings come up at the end of special time because this has been a yummy, delicious, super fun time where they've gotten all of you, all your attention to themselves. Well, yeah, it's kind of a bummer when it ends. It is normal for them to have feelings. If you're not rushed at the end, if you're not like trying to get out the door to work or to a meeting or something, and you have time, you won't be stressed out. When you're not stressed out because you're in a rush, then you are much less likely to do something that you wish you could take back later. So give yourself that extra little buffer at the end of special time in case that child has some feelings about it ending. And you then get to be flexible. Like, oh, can we do 5 more minutes? Do you have 5 more minutes? Okay, sure. Don't have 5 more minutes? Can't do 5 more minutes today, sweetie, but we can do it again on the weekend or whatever the truth is. And then you just allow them to feel. They don't have to like that limit, but that's an opportunity. It's a limit. That's an opportunity for them to release whatever needs to be released. And you're not rushed because you've got that time because you planned the buffer for an upset that might happen. You are proactive. You with me? Okay. So I just want to say that this is really like practical. It's not something that I've made up. It's not like a theory. It's really something that I've used. I use it in my own family. I teach it to thousands of parents, and it works. Okay. It works to help stop the aggression. It doesn't matter what you've been doing until now. If you've been yelling, if you've been throwing on timeouts, if you've been not knowing how to set limits or whatever, if the aggression is new, if the aggression has been going on, I really want to get the message across to you that the situation is very, very hopeful. And you have the power, like I said at the beginning, to turn things around. Just start with one little thing. Otherwise, we're stuck in overwhelm. Right? Like my week is so crazy this week. Like if I were to look at my whole week, I would have a total panic attack. Right? So today I have this one thing that I'm going to accomplish, and I'm not going to bed until it's done. One thing, and everything else is like on the periphery. I can't even look at it. Otherwise, forget it. Same thing here. Okay. The other thing I want to say, it is never too late. I mentioned that before. I'll mention it again. I don't care if your kid's 15, 18, whatever. It is never too late. Never too late. I had a contentious relationship with my father until I had my first kid. And then everything turned around. When I was 30, that's a long time to have a contentious relationship with your father. Some years not even speaking, right? You keep trying and you keep failing, and he keeps trying and he keeps failing, and it's not working, and you keep coming back. Relationships are complicated. People are complicated. Don't give up. It's never too late. A little bit at a time. You like my note to myself? I have no idea where 91 is, but let's keep going. Oh, here we go. This is, I don't know if Rachel, you were able to find the handout. It looks something like this. It does say boy on it though. I think the one I gave her, but you can ignore the boy. But there was a handout that they're going to give to you that you could just print out with just some things to say, because everyone always wants to know what to say, even though really I want you to stop saying things and just listen. But I got to give you something to say. This is the link to my website, the Reconnect. Let's see, what else? Oh, I'm glad my positive attitude. I know, I love talking about aggression because it works. You want to hear a personal story? Can I brag a little bit? Okay. So one of my, I should ask him first, but whatever, I'm sure he's fine with it. He's my oversharer, but the one who got me into this work in the first place. So he's about to be a senior in college, and he's the one who I really had to learn to advocate for despite his behaviors, which we didn't get into talking about, but there's so much to talk about all this. And he's at university, and he started a club at his university about redefining masculinity, and just like sort of doing things where they would table on the main campus or whatever, and people would come by and they would say like, what kind of qualities would you like to see in men? Or do you, I don't even know what they like. Anyway, I'm like, wow, okay. And now he got a job at the university as men's engagement coordinator. And then he was just asked by the president of the university to give a 40-minute interactive presentation or workshop on leadership and masculinity, which I don't know how much he knows about, but he's about to learn and give a presentation on it. Okay, this is the kid who everybody was just like, that kid he needs to go to therapy. Like, he can't come to the school anymore. He's not invited to the birthday party. He's not the troubled kid or whatever. And I'm like, I don't think so. I think this kid is like going to have a much better life as an adult. And it's my job to like help him get there safely. That is my job. And that is in fact how things played out. And I think that's true for many of our kids who start in these hard places, who don't necessarily fit into the boxes that, a lot of kids do fit into. A lot of kids don't, but a lot of kids do. And we forget that this is the beginning of life. And it's very hard when we have these periods in life where everybody's supposed to be acting a certain way, supposed to be good at everything in school. He's supposed to be good at math and humanities and social science. Like, who's good at all those things? Right? So anyway, I could go on and on. I get very excited about this topic. What's my opinion on medication? I don't really have an opinion on medication because I don't have a right to have an opinion on medication. But what I will tell you is that I see my job as supporting you. And so there really is nobody who knows your child better than you do. I would trust your gut. I would get multiple opinions, and I would make sure that your values match the values of the person that you take guidance from. I think that's what I would say. I mean, I have people in my community who have their kids on medication. I have people in my community who don't. I have people in my community who have diagnoses, and some who aren't interested in getting diagnoses. I don't think there's a right or wrong. I think medication has made a lot of people's lives a lot better. It doesn't work for everybody. And what I will say, it's not a panacea. I have never seen it like turn into, a beach and a cocktail. Like, it doesn't happen. It can take the edge off and help, and it can really help people, but you got to do all these things too. So you got to do all this, even if you do that. That would be my answer. All right, I know that I'm over time and I should stop, right?
Is there anything that you would like to say?
So anything I would like to say, what?
Is there anything else that you would like to share with us before we say goodbye in a few minutes?
I think that's plenty. I think I've given you a lot of information.
So much.
I don't want to overwhelm anybody anymore. I will say that I twice a year, I lead a free workshop that leads up to a paid course that I run that's called Out with Aggression. That's a step-by-step practice, which I just gave you an overview of, to stop your boys' aggressive behavior and lift your parenting confidence. It is for parents of young boys, like 2-ish to 10-ish, who are struggling with aggression. If that does fit you, join us. I think, let's see if I can put parentingwise.com/, let's see if this works. See if that, I wish I'd known you 30 years ago. That is the #1 thing that people say to me. I wish I had done this before. I am telling you, it is not too late, not too late. Or maybe that was for you 30 years ago. I don't know. I think that that's the link, parentingboyspeacefully.com/free-workshop. If you can, somebody can try out, see if it works. Just to sign up for the free workshop. And that would be joining my mailing list too, which you can leave whenever you want. I don't take it personally. So that would be my only other thing to share. Yeah, again, I just don't be discouraged. Pick one little thing at a time. First you, then connection with your child. Like if you're at the top of the ladder, right? So if you're like at the top, oh, let's put in the chat, how are you feeling? How are you feeling? Let's just bookend this, right? At the beginning, we were, I mean, maybe we still are, and I don't know, hopeless and all the things, okay? When you're in that place, it's really hard to help anybody else. We can't help somebody very well when we're not feeling good, okay? But when we're eager to try, we can help. How did you get to that place you're eager to try? Okay, I said a few things, but you came together in community. I'm telling you, we can't do this alone. Lighter, right? Why? Because we're together, because you have hope, because you heard stories about people who have succeeded, because you know that you're not the only one who hates your kids sometimes, right? Like, we have to normalize all of these things. I don't mean you don't love them. Okay, more hopeful, better reassured. Okay, looking forward to spending time with my child on his terms. Okay, look how different the chat is now. I mean, maybe you're lying, but I'm going to assume that you're telling me the truth. I hope so. That means I did my job. But it's not, just me. It's the coming together. So if this was helpful, come together with other people more often. Don't sit isolated in your home, worried. As my mother will say to you, worry is not preparation. It is not. It's wasting energy, right? It's putting energy into the negative instead of focusing on, okay, what can I do? Okay, not so alone and hopeful. Yay! Excellent. I'm
This
done.
was
I got nothing else to say.
Fabulous, really incredible takeaways. And I would invite people to come to the free webinar tomorrow. It sounds terrific.
Yeah, it's actually a week long, just to be clear. It's 3 pre-recorded videos and then 3 live Zoom workshops. And some of the, like, you're going to recognize, we're going to do that when you do this exercise. Like, there's some exercises that you might recognize, but come together. I mean, literally, just so you're not alone, like in the last few days, like several thousand people have signed up. That's how many people have these kids who are struggling. Like, you're that not alone.
And we're so grateful that you're able to provide your services to the community. Thank you so, so much.
My
And
pleasure.
Joni, is there anything you just wanted to end the conversation with?
Oh, and I'll just say to answer the
Sure.
question real quick before you do that, do I offer working with girls? I just want to say that I do one-on-one coaching, and you can go to my website, parentingboyspeacefully.com. One-on-one coaching I'll do with anybody.
Tosha, thank you so much. It
My
was
pleasure.
just information, and thank you so much.
Do you have the handout for people?
I dropped it in the chat.
Rachel's-
Oh, good.
Okay, great. Yeah. The last thing that you said about community and you are not alone is so, so, so important. And so I just encourage everybody to go to the free workshop, and I encourage everybody to come to the support groups that we have that Bergen County Chat has, because you're not alone. And that's one of the biggest things people take out of that workshop, that support group, is, oh my gosh, I was so ashamed. I don't want anyone to know what's going on inside my house. You're not alone, and so come to that community. It's second and fourth Wednesday of the month, and check it out, because there's so much information, and community is key. Exactly what Tosha said, community is key. So thank you for making that point, along with all the other amazing points that you made.
My pleasure. I guess I can stop sharing my screen at this point.